X has arrived in Star Citizen 4.4, and it brings along with it a brand new faction to work for and a brand new one to work against. And of course, there's the official arrival of the Vanduul in the verse. The new QV logistics station is where you can get the new Boomtube rocket launcher, Wikelo trade items, military and stealth grade A components, and the new Testudo armour. So if any of that tickles your pickle, to go alongside my usual one-page guide, here's the full video guide to the new Vanduul-Tech Smugglers contract. Picking up the story where the Onyx facilities left off, although you don't need to have completed that chain to get started. You do, however, need to grind up the first rank with InterSec Defense Solutions. InterSec are a UEE naval subcontractor hunting down the source of Vanduul-Tech and bodies smuggled into Stanton, but also have next-level merc work available. Given the state of PTU, the initial grind was pretty rough, but taking the high-value target contracts get things done pretty quickly, especially if you're grouped up. The trick being that if you all take a contract and start sharing only after everyone has got their own contract, you'll all be able to get them as the targets are randomly generated, making the contracts unique. However, if you only take and share one between you, no others will show up to accept in your Moby-Glass. Once you're at Junior Contractor, the Investigations tab will have the Vanduul-Tech Smugglers contract available. Now, your grind up the ladder should have been an indicator of the difficulty to expect going forward. Whereas it's entirely possible to solo, it can be a bit of a tough run. Especially if, like me, you've been mostly running first-person shooter content for the past year and are extremely rusty when it comes to space combat. But even the FPS portion of this new location can be challenging. You'll face heavy armoured enemies with dead rig shotguns, pulverizer LMGs, and sniper rifles in CQB with static and event-triggered spawns. So, going well equipped and ready for pain is always good. And if you really want to go prepared, you'll also need a Cambio SRT light module and associated canister, but these can be picked up at the location. When you arrive at the station, there'll be a mix of scythes, glaives, and blades appear that you need to deal with before you land, which, if you're actually looking to fight, can be a bit of a chore, as they feel like they've been artificially beefed up a little bit, and on the PTU at least, teleport a ridiculously annoying amount. However, I found the Constellation Andromeda with a stock loadout was more than enough, with a bit of decoupled drift flipping to let shield faces regenerate. You can, of course, at least for now, cheese it and hug the station or an asteroid and let the Vanduul just smash against the large obstacle. Once the 4 ships are destroyed by any method you choose, you can either land in the medium hangar or enter via the pad that's located in line with the main station trunk, just across from the docked Polaris. Once inside, head through to this area. And if you're grouped, you might want to wait for everybody to be ready before you cross the threshold, as once you go in, all of the doors will close, sealing you inside what is essentially Ghost Arena, but less dirty. Now, my preferred way to do this is to just sprint up the steps and into the main room, head left, up the staircase until you get to halfway, then across the boards going left again, behind the sign, and then after mantling over the railing, hook a right into the maintenance room. There will be enemies, but you don't need to worry about any of them except for the 2 or 3 that will be outside the maintenance room entrance. In the maintenance room itself, there'll be a couple more to deal with, and then you just need to reset the lever to the down position. You may also notice one of these server blades on the boxes next to it. This is a door key to the main loot room, with some extra steps. There'll also be a tall blue box in this room with some SRT tool items that'll come in handy later, as I previously mentioned. heading back out to the balcony, and it's time to start clearing enemies around the room however you see fit. And on the opposite corner to the maintenance room, there's a clinic, which will most likely be needed. The clinic has a Tier 1 medical bed for healing only, no regeneration. And whilst you're on this level of the balcony, you can see into the security room where we need to head for the contract. This has metal grating rather than a window, so you can shoot through them to make the room a little bit less painful when you go in. But there will likely still be a couple of enemies that weren't visible from the balcony, including this guy, wearing a rather striking armor set. He's one of the Shattered Blade BSDs. And when you interact with his body, you'll get a data packet download. He'll also be carrying a one-time use decryption key. Make sure to grab it. Interact with the terminal and it will prompt you for that decryption key. Now you can either use this one or wait until you've got the 4 other data packets from the 4 other lieutenants and just decrypt them all at once with a single key, which I'd actually recommend, as the less interaction you need to do with handheld objects in Star Citizen, the better. Now, remember that server blade that we picked up? Well, if you didn't get one, there's other locations to find them, so don't worry. But it needs to go into 3 server racks to encode it to become a working passcode disk for the warehouse. The first one being right here in the security office. Put the disk in, wait for it to pop back out again, and then take it with you. We'll next need it when we go to the Polaris. But for now, we've got to find 2 more data packets from within the station itself. So we're off to clear cargo deck A and B. For the sake of time, I'll cover these as one, as the cargo decks are essentially enemy-filled loot grottos with 3 fixed spawn Testudo armor boxes each, random assortment of other loot boxes, and smaller military and stealth grade A components. There are also NPC-mounted turrets that the AI will use and sometimes also might get inhabited by a benign spirit. Once you've taken down the lieutenant in each of these rooms, there should be a yellow mission marker appear to retrieve the intel that they had on them. When you do, there'll be a triggered spawn of 6 enemies coming from the entrance area. Now, fair warning time, on PTU, there have been a not insignificant amount of times where a lieutenant hasn't spawned. But that hasn't happened for a few runs now. Just be aware that it might happen, and if it does, unfortunately, it's time to abandon and try again. The cargo elevators in the decks are linked to your hangar, so these make for a great way to clear your inventory. You'll also find these frozen Vanduul ready meal containers, which, once you've completed this contract, you can trade for 700,000 credits with a collection contract. Now it's time to head to the Polaris, which loves to obliterate frame rates. Head back through to the hangar elevator and then to the pad. Personal choice, I prefer to EVA over, as when you leave the station, another wave of Vanduul will spawn. So just a quick drift over to the portside airlock and in we go. There's a forced route to the bridge where the next lieutenant spawns, but he will often move with the rest of the upper deck enemies to push you through the corridors. Also on the way to the bridge are more Testudo boxes, and from the mind of some twisted level or mission content designer, the backpack is on the Polaris and not in one of the cargo decks. If you're heading down into the cargo bay or engineering to loot goblin, be aware that the gravgen area will damage over time in a little flavour of engineering. But for the real goblins, the second server rack for your passcode disk is located in the hangar. Also, make sure to check the large blue boxes for a large, pristine artifact fragment if you plan on trading with Wikelo, as he's offering the Clan Guard, Boomtube and Testudo set. Now comes time for the most mind-numbing part of this whole adventure. Searching 3 derelict wrecks for a body. But as an investigation contract enthusiast, that's not the mind-numbing part for me. No, the mind-numbing part is, at each of the 3 wrecks, there'll be another 4 Vanduul fighter spawns. On top of the spawn that you get when you leave your hangar, of course. In my opinion, it's just tedium, possibly because of the amount of teleporting. But hey-ho. In order to get the derelict wreck markers to appear, you need to head over to the auxiliary station, and when you're touching tips with the door, it'll update and task you with finding the airlock key. It'll be on a corpse wearing exactly the same Deathblow Testudo armor as you'll find a flash dance frozen lieutenant somewhere in one of the wrecks. And you need to be within 10 meters of the corpse for the retrieval marker to appear. Once you've got your key, head back to the auxiliary station and a pretty cool storytelling environment, with a little teaser of what one day might come to the persistent universe, an on-foot fight with Vinny Vanduul. There's 8 corpses throughout the station. Each will have either plating or metal to loot and a VCK-1 knife. The trade items are of course needed for Wikelo. Or, again, you can just take a collection contract once you've finished this one. The last lieutenant and server rack are behind a code-locked door at the front of the station, and there's a random located laptop with the code. There is a small security booth to the left which has a Cambio SRT light multi-tool, and you need a fuse to get into the room. That can be found back in the locker room to the right. But why do you need the SRT tool? Well, the pipe of almost certain death is between you and possibly the door code. So far, I've had it spawn in the safe side of the pipe in the bar snug area only once. All the other times has been either in the commissary or in the far back room. You can scrape RMC from the pipe next to the bar entrance and then use it to repair the murder pipe. Beyond the pipe, there's also 2 more Testudo boxes, with the third being in the room with the lieutenant. As we reach the home stretch, thank you so much for watching this guide so far. If you're looking for more straight-to-the-point Star Citizen content, please be sure to subscribe, and if you have any questions, ask down below. Now, hopefully your code worked first time and you didn't have to sprint back to get another one as the laptop regenerated it, and you're into the office. Don't forget to grab yourself a Boomtube, or on the normal rack, one of either a dead rig, ripper, pulverizer or kill shot, and then get the data packet from the human post-it note and the key if you need it. And here's your final passcode writing server rack, with a spare card on the floor if you wanted to start a new one from here. Then it's off back to the station to complete the contract. There may be a respawn of enemies depending on how long it's taken you to get to this point, and the ambush doors might trigger again. But once you're back to the security room, and then insert your decryption key when prompted, and the contract will complete. Now for the loot. The door is on a timed open from when you insert the passcode disk into the wall slot, and there's no enemies in the warehouse, so you're free to poke around. Gather up your loot and send it all down the elevator to pick up later from your hangar. There's a fair haul and a variety of components and general loot, as well as a full set of Testudo boxes and 2 boom tubes. Again, if you want to trade with Wikelo, be sure to check the big blue trunks for the artifact fragment. And you might just get lucky when searching the normal armor boxes and find yourself the matching Deathblow backpack to go with the lieutenant outfit. Until the next one, fellow citizens, fly safe and beware the bugs.